I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, our special meeting, and we are going to go ahead and rise for the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve or amend tonight's meeting agenda for this special meeting.
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda for this special meeting this evening.
Any discussion? Nope. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, we are here to interview our two candidates for School Board Director District 4. We have two candidates, as I've said, Nicholas Thomas and Mark Knowles, for the District 4 area to replace John Campbell's seat. We're going to go ahead, I think, and start with the first interview since that candidate is here, and then proceed. So I welcome. Come up ahead. Yeah. Why don't we go like rotate with the questions, start here, and kind of just go down the row. Go ahead, Eric.
So, thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So the first question we have on here is, what are your reasons for seeking a position with the North Mason School District Board?
I'm glad you asked in a plural sense. I think the number one thing is just, I have to say, being a dad, and a husband, and being in the community. And, I've been a part of, volunteer groups, whether it be through coaching or whether it be task force or whether it be gathering signatures for, bonds or levies, et cetera. But there's always been that little part of, I wish there was something more I could do. And I wish there was a way I could be not necessarily the person that makes the decision, but be able to be there to help communicate those decisions, to help the community better understand why maybe it's going in a certain direction, or to talk to the school board as in, hey, this is what I'm hearing in the community. And as I learned more about it, and as I've just been here for, nearly 20 years in the community now, I've just felt like, with such a huge portion of our population funneling through the public education program, I feel like it's, I don't want to say duty bound, but in a sense, I feel like if I don't do my part to do something to help in that, I better keep my mouth shut about anything else that I have an issue with. If we're going to truly, I loved it last school board meeting when the principals were talking about the extracurricular activities. They talked about the rise above. And if we're going to help with that, we need to be involved somehow. And when I saw the opening, I had literally just talked to a friend the night before about, man, I wish there was a way I could be more involved. And I think I can only do so much as a Pee Wee football coach, et cetera, and it just seemed like a perfect opportunity. So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So how would you describe, what is your perception of the role of a school board member? You kind of touched on it, but if you could elaborate.
I see to represent, but I think number one, communicate. There are so many things that happen in this community, and there's so many diverse, and that's a beautiful thing, but there's so many different opinions, and there's so many things that are truth-based, and then there's the rumor mill, and there's the naysayers, and then there's a social media group. And I feel like as a school board member, I would have that ability and the responsibility to work on improving those lanes of communication. There's so many people that maybe we can't address. We can't fix everything in this community, but if people can at least be heard and know they're being heard and being acknowledged, I feel like then all of a sudden, instead of them feeling like they're being ignored or that they don't have a safe space to share their feelings, at least they know there's an avenue, a way that they can share their feelings, and that we can at least have a public discussion about these things. So I really just think being there to communicate, to be involved, and help connect the dots.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, my turn. So what do you see as the major strengths of the district?
You know, right now I think communication has actually been a great thing. Something I've loved as a parent this year is seeing the surveys going out. There's so many things where, again, I believe that if parents can just feel like they're being heard, if even the teachers can feel like they're being heard, it just changes the dynamic so much. Instead of an us against them, it becomes a we. How do we get better? What can we do? What are we saying as a group? And just, I feel like currently, I feel like we've got an improved image. I know there's been a push towards public relations. I know there's been a push towards taking the good things that we're doing and not, I don't want to say parading them out there, but there is a certain amount of marketing involved with running the district and with helping to have that positive perception. So many people are just going to judge the book by the cover. So if we can at least kind of polish that cover up the best that we can, I think it's going to be helpful. And I think that we're doing a good job with that right now.
That's good to hear.
And then,
Yeah.
and other than that, I would just say the teachers that I've met and the people of the community working together have been a huge strength. And I just feel like right now we've got people in place, and I feel like we've got people with a strong desire to, I go back to that rise above, to help North Mason rise above.
Very cool. You're next.
Okay, if you could describe how your experience, your training and interests can contribute to the improvement of the district.
Well, I like to think that I could help, and I know that this would be a position temporary in a sense, and there would be an election, but I believe that even in the short time, if selected, you know, I work as an instructional design expert for the Navy, civilian side. So I've got my master's degree, my instructional design experience. I love teaching. I'm focused on adult learning. My undergraduate work is all marriage, family, human development with early childhood education emphasis. So I have that passion, that love. I actually thought I was going to be a teacher growing up, and then family and other things took me in other directions. But I just have a love for learning, and I believe that can be a great asset. Secondly, my job, I do a lot of business analytics. I do a lot of work where we're looking at programs, we're looking at program management, and because of that, I've been called on to be a lead facilitator for a lot of difficult discussions where there's various, oftentimes conflicting interests and conflicting attitudes and conflicting backgrounds. And I feel like my facilitation skills can help in a sense of being able to, no matter the level of the command that they're in or the socioeconomic background that they come from, I feel like I can help it to be a safe, inclusive environment for people to feel comfortable and be able to professionally, although passionately, talk about the things that they need to. And to be honest, I'll go back, number one, to my first answer, being a dad and being a husband. I have a personal interest in North Mason. I have blood, sweat, and tears, you know, on these fields, in these halls, and even working as a substitute and as a para, you know, I've had the experiences, and because of that, I feel like it gives me that drive, that I'll say, I don't want to use the word passion. I don't want to throw that around too loosely, but you have to want to be involved, and we have to be intentional with things. And I think my background pushes me to be intentional in the things that I do, and I think that would be an asset.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That was very complete.
Yes.
So next question here.
Yeah.
So board members, we always don't agree. So
We don't always.
don't always agree, but
Always.
Not always
Not
don't.
always, right. So
Freudian slip.
How would you handle a disagreement with a fellow board member?
You know, I think with respect, and I think hearing. Listening, I think, is one of the number one elements of diffusing a situation, de-escalating thing, and also keeping the emotional and personal aspect out of it. You know, remembering, you know, we're here to do a job, we're here to represent the district, we're here to represent the community, the students, the administration. So let's find a way to work together, even if we've not seen eye to eye in a particular thing. I had an instructor in school that taught me a great principle, and I kind of love the way we're situated here, because he would talk about whenever you're having those difficult, critical, and crucial conversations, to sit beside him, not across from him. And I love that imagery, because when you're addressing a problem or there's something going on and you sometimes are lancing things at each other, even though you're lancing them at the program, you sometimes start to take that as it's coming at you. And he would say, let's sit side by side and let's look at this together, so that we're focused on the issue and not focused on going at each other. So,
Very good.
Great. So this one is, please describe any commitments which might prevent you from attending regularly scheduled meetings, participation in workshops, or reviewing city materials, etc. We are, as a board, looking tonight at moving our meeting day next year to help accommodate our other incoming board members. So any insight you can provide on any commitments you have would be helpful.
you know, I had heard that, and to be honest, this would be a priority. I don't have, I mean, obviously I have work commitments until 4:30. You know, we don't do anything on Sunday or anything like that. But this would be a priority, and if there was something that came up, it would be something representing the school board at an event or something like that. So I'm sure there would be something that we would discuss. But as far as regular requirements or anything that would conflict, there's none that I know of.
Okay. Pee-wees, you mentioned Pee-wees, they meet on the weekends.
Pee-wee sports, but even then, I'm there every single day. I think if I'm gone one day a month, they are more than
I
okay
see,
with
I see.
that. And
Thank you.
if not, they might even enjoy that. And I'm fine.
Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate, that's all the questions that
Okay.
we've got for you, so.
Thank you. Really appreciate the time and opportunity, and just, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And that was Mark, right?
No, that was Nicholas Thomas.
Oh, did I not write that down?
We don't want
I was just guessing, because I don't think we established that in the beginning,
I,
so I was just
so
like,
this is Morgan's dad. I just pieced it together from Morgan's.
Oh.
house. Yeah.
Yeah.
nice.
You can go ahead and come forward, Mark.
Good evening.
Good evening,
I
yes.
apologize for being touch and go. It was a little longer to get here than I anticipated, but
Oh,
Totally
yes,
okay.
we understand. We'll go ahead and start with you, Leanna.
Oh, okay, I did too. So, your name is Mark, right?
it is Mark,
Okay.
with a K.
All right. That's my dad's name. Let's see. Okay, what are your reasons for seeking a position on the North Mason School District Board?
So that's a really good question. I was approached by a community member with the vacancy. And I really hadn't put probably a lot of thought prior to that to being involved directly as a school board member. But as I kind of thought about it and talked to my wife about it, we're from North Mason, you know, Bulldog born, Bulldog bred. And so we had raised our families in Port Orchard and moved back to the area about 7-8 years ago. And so I think, you know, both of us are looking for opportunities to be involved directly in the community, to have an impact on the community. And so, you know, we're involved in various things, but this would be, we think the most direct impact on the community as the schools are such a big portion of the community, so.
Thank you.
John, you're number 2.
Okay. If you could describe, please, your perception of what do you think the role of a school board member is?
Well, having been part of boards, and part of my job is to deal with boards. So I really think the job of a board is to stay high level, is to work on the future of the school district. It is not in operations, it's not the day-to-day. It is to really create the vision for the district and the policy for the district. And so I think you have an impact on operations as you direct that vision and direct the policies.
Come back to you, Eric.
What do you see as the major strengths of the district?
I think the facilities have got to be a strength, you know, this is the first winter I haven't refereed basketball for 26 years, I think. And as I go around just other school districts, you know, I mean, it's amazing that this is in Belfair. It's just awesome. The facilities are top notch.
Great to
So I
hear.
think that is a strength. I don't know enough about the personnel. I don't know enough about the curriculum. I don't know enough to be able to speak directly on some of the strengths. I know that when I was a student here, I would say that the strength of it was that it was kind of family oriented. I mean, it just felt like it was an extension of home. I don't know if that's true or not true, but I think in this size of community, I would hope that it still is true and a strength of the district.
Great. Can you describe some of your experience, your training, and your interest in how they can contribute to the improvement of the district?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how or which portions of my experiences would benefit the board most directly. I have quite a bit of fiscal experience with budgets. I manage about 6 different golf properties. We have annual budgets. I'm going through those routinely, from everything from capital to operations. And part of, I guess, my passion in my professional career is on the development side, whether that's, and my own personal challenge has been to how to get on the better side of the game of golf for better part of 50 years. And so and part of that is what are the main differences, or what are the challenges that interfere with our ability to perform at our highest level? And then, you know, what are the key components to performance? And so those are things that I study in depth as it comes to just our ability as human beings to perform at a high level. And so that's probably a lens that I would look through when I'm looking at the district.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
It's me. Let's see. No, didn't you just say that one?
Yes,
on
so that's the next page. 5.
Well, I'm totally off here. Okay. Board members do not always agree with each other. And how would you handle conflict or a disagreement with another board member?
Well, I'm trying to think of how I handle them with my wife. So, yeah, I mean, it's just part of living and part of having quality relationships with people. I think that I have quality relationships with a lot of people and with a lot of people that I don't agree with. So, like Mr. Thomas mentioned, I think respect, sincerity, coming from keeping in mind that we're arguing about a system or we're arguing about a topic. We're not arguing at each other or making it, it's not personal, it's,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. John, you're number 6.
All right. and the Hallelujah Chorus. Do you have any commitments that might prevent you from attending regular scheduled meetings or participating in workshops or reviewing study materials?
None foreseen. Obviously, life sometimes happens, but no, I do not. I have a pretty flexible schedule in my job, so I do not foresee any conflicts.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for both of you for putting your names forward. We appreciate it greatly. We need people, so thank you for showing your interest.
Great, thank you.
You can go ahead and have a seat, and I'm going to adjourn us for executive session. It's 5:52, and we'll be in session for approximately 30 minutes. And we will leave the room.
Say what we're going to do when we come out.
Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and reconvene our special board meeting. We met earlier, for those of us that are now joining us, we met at 5:30 to review our District 4 candidates. And I am going to go ahead now and call for a vote. We're gonna do kind of a rolling vote where I ask each board member who they have selected. And we've also made the decision to have this person be sworn in with our other incoming board member in January, and have John continue to fill his seat tonight if he is willing. All right, with that in mind, I will go ahead and start from this end. We have two candidates, Nicholas Thomas and Mark Knowles. Eric, your vote?
I vote Mr. Thomas.
My vote is that I vote for Mr. Thomas.
And my vote is for Mr. Thomas as well.
I'm the same.
All right. Do we take action as in all in favor?
You took a vote.
We just
so-
took a vote. Okay. All right. Well, that vote is now binding, and Nicholas Thomas will join our board next month. So I'm going to go ahead and adjourn our special session, and we'll reconvene later
6:30.
in. Go ahead and call our meeting to order. Let's please stand for the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. This is great. I would like to entertain a motion to approve our agenda or amend it if there are any changes that we need.
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the agenda as it is given.
Great. Any discussion? Oh no, I'll save my question for the consent agenda. Okay, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries. Jackie, do we have any public comments? No? Okay. Student board member comments. Erin, thanks for being here. Go ahead, you've got the floor.
So we have a winter dance coming up. It is currently scheduled for January 27th. The theme is Glow Out. It's going to be in the Ox Gym. We had a knowledgeable competition today. We took 8th out of 29 schools.
Congratulations.
Our band is having a concert tonight, which everyone I think knows about already. Honor Society is currently working on a lot of projects. We had our meeting earlier in the week, and the one that is currently had the most work done to it is a blood drive in the spring that we're planning on hosting.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Where do they do that blood drive normally? Here? Oh.
Yeah, we had
Parking lot.
Oh,
it in the Ox Gym earlier in October,
Oh, that's right.
so we're gonna have it in the Ox Gym as well, probably May or April.
great. Thank you. So our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve or amend our consent agenda?
I'll have a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Great. Any discussion or questions? I had one which I had asked Dana, and I wonder if you had heard the Pride Club. Is that at Hawkins or at the high school?
I believe that that's a new club at Hawkins, yes.
Great. Great to see. I have no other comments or questions. Nothing?
Oh,
Any questions, comments?
on this, our general,
Consent agenda.
yeah, I was very, yeah, consent agenda, nope,
Oh.
I consent.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And our student board member vote?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, we are here for a James A. Taylor and HomeLink presentation. Please step forward.
Hi, good evening. I'm here to present our programs for our alternative learning environment, James Taylor, daytime, evening, and HomeLink. And specifically what we're doing to address the credit deficiency gap. So right now we are kind of 2.5 schools, one building. We are up to 77 at James Taylor between our daytime and our nighttime. I think maybe 78 as of today. With our staff members, our students come 4 days a week with one short day, and we are in the building 5 days a week. We serve all different types of kids, and I think currently we are at 28% students with IEPs. And if you combine all of our students in special population subgroups, we are at 80%. So we are currently using a mix of our online platform, which is called Edmentum, and then in-person learning as well. HomeLink, we are just over 90 students right now that are engaged in remote online learning with 4 teachers who serve as mentors. Our kids work from home most of the time, but they're coming in for some of those in-person classes, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then again, we serve all types of students, but ideal candidates for HomeLink are pretty disciplined students who are self-motivated, work well independently, and they can self-advocate when needed, and they are also using Edmentum. So in the spring of 2022, before I took over the role as the ALE director, we were going over some of the problems we wanted to solve. So at James Taylor, 14% of our students were attending 90% of the time. And our graduation rate, I think, was 42% at that point. So we had a goal to quickly solve the credit acquisition gap, where students are earning 6 credits a year if they are on target, because most of them come to James Taylor already credit deficient. So we came up with the solutions, and when I say me, it's the teachers that work in both programs, the students who are there provide their input, and then myself. To create a STEAM portable, which has been running since last year. And then last year we piloted evening school. And our goals were to improve the on-time graduation rate, decrease the dropout rate, and then specifically target students who were on the verge of dropping out for various reasons. So our STEAM portable teachers here were offered the chance to follow kind of what their passion projects are. So they submit a syllabus to me with all of their standards aligned to the state course codes, and then I go through the process to approve those. And we allow any student either at James Taylor Day or HomeLink to attend these classes, and they're held at various times during the day in our portables by mostly our HomeLink teachers. So we started with art, digital photo last year, engineering with robotics, and neuroscience. And this year we are adding 3D design. That will start in January. So our kids will be creating and designing their own products on the 3D printers. This year we added an algebra and art class and a geometry and art class. So students will earn their 1.0 credits of whatever math that is, and a 0.5 credit of fine arts. So the teacher for that is using art to teach those priority standards in math. And in spring, we will add physical science with a lab. So our evening kids, when we were surveying kids who were on the verge of dropping out or HomeLink wasn't working for them, their barriers were they had full-time employment, they were caretaking for a different family member during the daytime, or lack of internet, or they were just struggling to learn at home. So last year, students came 2 days a week and worked 4 hours per evening, and the remaining 20 hours were flexed, meaning they could work at home at any point during the day during those other days. Our ideal candidates were fifth-year seniors, seniors who are working full-time, seniors who are parenting or caretaking, and then case by case for juniors. And I think this year we have one sophomore age student. And we're pretty tight on attendance. They cannot use work as an excused absence unless they're a shipyard and working for the TDY or something like that. And they follow the same attendance protocols as every other student in our programs. So in that process, we learned a lot of things. Each student now has their own individual attendance agreement. We realized last year when we had classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we inputted a barrier because that was church night for a lot of students. So we worked to eliminate that. We had to figure out how to feed our kids, student safety, parking, what do we do about childcare, and then transportation for our evening students. So where are we now? Last year we had a 90% graduation rate. 5 students in that evening program who were going to drop out graduated. They do get fed every night. We added some additional security staff to our program. We're working with the athletic director on parking for when fast pitch games are happening. We realize then our kids get there and there's no parking. So we're working on communicating that. We have volunteer grandmas on standby, but our moms are good moms and are pretty hands-on with their babies, so it's really not needed. We kind of set up a playpen and they have books and toys and they play. We're now in school 4 days a week. So students have to choose a minimum of 2 days or 8 hours and stick to those days, or if they want to attend more days, they can. But the minimum is 8 hours or 2 days a week. And we have worked with McKenna Long at Food Service, and I think we finally narrowed it down. We're like on Plan F for providing lunches for our evening students. One of the things we're trying to work on is how to better, more efficiently track attendance, and then create an application process specifically for evening, because not wanting to wake up early to go to school is not a reason to attend at nighttime. So our goal this year is just to streamline those processes and supports.
So right now, there are no like robocalls that go out if you miss.
Nope, we still track it. It's on a spreadsheet, and then we send out our attendance letters, just like we would for the other students. They're just not getting that additional layer of the robocall.
That's great. And I'm curious about the number compared, when you say back in the purpose slide, only 14% of James Taylor students attended 90% or more.
So
how has this impacted attendance?
last
rates?
year we were up in the 40s. Still not where we want to be. And this year we're hoping for 60.
Okay, 40% attend.
90% of the time.
90% of school, including evening. Okay. Well, that's definitely an improvement over 14.
It's incredible. And it just makes, I had a terrible time in school, and I'm just gonna say that out loud, but it makes me wanna go back to school. I mean, just the opportunities and the way that you have made things happen is awesome. You and your team, I know
it's
everybody, and you're like, don't wanna hear it, but I know, like, you're doing great things, so,
Thank you.
wonderful.
And I did bring with me one of our students. It's one of our HomeLink students, because I think it's important to share the stories of our students and why they're choosing that path. So if you allow it, I'd like to invite Sarah Miller up here to share that story.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Sierra Miller, and I am very thankful for this opportunity to come speak to you this evening. Without this program, I would not be graduating this year. I was told when I decided to leave North Mason High School to better my education that I would not be graduating until 2026. That would be after my little sister has graduated and close to my little brother starting middle school himself. I was not happy with that. But because of this program, I have been able to turn things around, and I will be finishing all of my graduation requirements for the North Mason School District by February.
Wow.
And because of this program, I've been awarded an opportunity to attend West Sound Tech this year, and I am taking the fire science program there. And because of that, I am now applying to Bates and Central Washington University to become an EMT and paramedic.
All right.
This program has changed my life in a tremendous way, and I would not be here without this administration and without Ms. Hadfield specifically. She's known me since I was in 7th grade, and she's seen me go through a lot. And without this program, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And so I'm so thankful to still be a part of this and to be awarded the opportunities and to be able to take the classes that I want. I am taking new electives that weren't introduced to me in normal school or even last year taking HomeLink. One of my dreams is to be a makeup artist as well, and because of this program and using Adventum, I am able to take the cosmetology classes that I'm not able to afford. So I am beyond thankful, and
Thank you for sharing.
of course, thank you for the
Got one
opportunity.
question.
Of course.
What was it that attracted you to this program? What did you hear about it?
I heard that it did a lot of good for people who struggle mentally and who have family issues, because I'll admit it, I came from struggle. I was poor. I was not very smart, and I didn't adapt well socially to other kids in school, and I didn't learn well in a classroom. And I noticed that when I wasn't applying myself the way that I knew that I could. And so I knew that I needed a change. And because of this program, and because I was allotted into this program, I was able to turn things around, and I'm me again
All right.
because of this course and this program. I was not myself before, and this completely changed myself around. It changed my mental state. I want to be here more, and I want to be more involved in this school district. You will see my face more around this school, I promise.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions for Lexi or Sierra?
No, I'd just like to say that one of the things that always worries me about our school system is that people in rural areas get the short end of the stick. And one of the things that bothers me about that is that there could be all kinds of genius and all kinds of talent in areas like ours that are not tapped. So when I hear stories like this one this evening and hear about the 90%, I think that we're doing something really right, and it goes right to the very core of what we're supposed to stand for as a republic. So I really think this is an excellent political program for citizenship.
I agree. I'm a big believer of this program.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, and
Our
a big
meeting's over.
congratulations to you for going and doing it.
Yeah.
It's, she provided the tools.
Won't let us.
It's
Yeah.
just awesome to see.
Yeah. Thank you. That's wonderful. Is there anything else, Lexi, to share? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I am going to make a little change in the next part of the agenda
Okay.
and just flip-flop and start with the discipline presentation, because we have so many things going on in the district, and some of our principals need to get back to where their kids are.
Okay.
So we're going to start with discipline and then flip and do the TTK presentation after.
Yes, so yes, we are at the superintendent teaching and learning update. Welcome.
Hi,
Please introduce yourself and
I'm Chris Turner, Director of Systems and Supports. And tonight is about school discipline and the district's goals. And I'm kind of the warm-up to set the stage for the people who are doing the real work, which is, it's the principals. So discipline, we all know that academics and discipline are interwoven. When we have strong academics, kids behave better, and when we have lots of discipline issues, they don't learn as well. And so right off the bat, you can see some of the statistics that are up there with behavior referrals and how kids don't perform as well academically. That's a little research. Another thing that we know is that learning happens in class. And when there's discipline issues, kids are often sent out of the class, they may be suspended for days, and then they're not where the learning happens. That's why, they need to be in class. However, there are behaviors that kids exhibit that disrupt learning. So they stop the learning in class. They cause issues and make kids feel unsafe at times. And schools need to be a safe, welcoming place for all kids. So managing student behavior is absolutely essential. So when it comes to managing student behavior, what do we do? How are we going about it? And so I just cut some things from OSPI. And one of the major things that we do across the board is multi-tiered systems of supports. You guys have heard that before when we talked about academics. And so this is straight off OSPI, and I want to bring your eyes down to the bottom half of what's underlined. And it says positive behavioral interventions and supports, PBIS, and social emotional learning. That's best practice. And part of tonight is the principals are going to talk about how they are implementing that in their buildings. So let's look at a little statistics just to kind of set the stage. The top left one is talking about office discipline referrals and the number of students who've received those. So the top part of that is the first 4 months of this school year, and the bottom part of that is all of last year. So to read that, you can see there's 317 students who've received 751 office referrals across the district. Last year, then in the year in entirety, there were 626 students who received 2,582 behavior referrals. So obviously some kids receive a lot of behavior referrals or more than one, and some may only receive one. The graph on the bottom right talks about the number of suspensions and the number of students. So far this year, there's 81 students who've received 129 suspensions. Connecting those two graphs, we look at there's 317 office referrals, and out of those, 81 of them resulted in a suspension.
And just to be clear about our language, an office discipline referral, a kid is being sent to their office in their building.
They're being written up for the principals sometimes they're sent directly, and sometimes there's a write-up and the principal pulls them when they get the opportunity, because every effort's made to keep kids in class as long as possible. So just a little bit of discipline data. If we go to the next slide. This here is some data pulled directly from OSPI. Not only do we measure the amount of suspensions we have, but we measure the amount of times kids are out of class. So just to read this graph, if we go pre-pandemic in 2019 and 20, you can see 18.4% of our suspensions were 1 day or less. 41.8% of the suspensions were 2 or 3 days, and so on down the line. The pandemic messed things up. 21, 22, that's still out of balance. By the time we get to this year's data, I think it's going to look very similar to pre-pandemic data.
Okay.
But OSPI tracks our data. So it talks about how important it is to make sure that we are addressing discipline and keeping kids in class. So if we go to the next slide. Going back to best practice, multi-tiered layers of support. What that is we want to make sure we have supports across the board, and it gets with increasing strength, I guess, as kids need it. There's in academics, we've talked about that before, but it's in behavior as well. So a couple things that we have for behavior is SABERS, which is Social, Academic, and Emotional Behavior Risk Screener. That helps us to determine what kids need the most support, who needs a lot and who needs a little. Second thing is we have PBIS. Those are things that are big things that we're doing for behavior. Now, PBIS is not a curriculum. It's a system. It's a way of going about doing things. It provides a continuum of evidence-based practices that support student needs so they can learn how to behave in school and be reinforced for that. The graph on the right-hand side shows the tiers. The green tier is tier 1. That's supports we put in across the school for every student. Then there's some students who need some additional supports. That'd be tier 2, which is the yellow triangle that's layered on top of. And then some that need a lot of supports. That'd be the tier 3, which is the red. So it just kind of builds upon that. Principals will talk about tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. So I wanted to kind of set that stage. So what is PBIS kind of in a nutshell? PBIS is how we teach kids expectations, teach them our rules, and then recognize the kids for that. A strong PBIS system has 5 or less school-wide expectations, such as the district's pillars. Be responsible, be respectful, be kind, and be safe. So then they take those pillars, those expectations, and they tie all the rules into there. So like, we could list out 57 rules that kids could follow, or we could say, we follow these pillars, these expectations. So fighting, that falls under probably respect and safety. So you see how that we can say be safe, and it's more comprehensive. Second, a good PBIS system will have positive reinforcement when we catch kids doing the right things. So we want to catch, the more we see more of whatever we look for. So if we're looking for kids that are being respectful, responsible, safe, and kind, and we recognize them for it, we're just going to see it all over the place. So we're not just looking for the kids and catching the kids being bad or doing something wrong. We're catching the kids doing something good, and that's something we should be doing. A PBIS system is data-driven. So they take school-wide discipline, they find out where is it happening, what might be going on, is there a lot of kids being aggressive, being tardy, and then it's team-driven, so there's a team at each school that then looks at that data and decides, what are we going to do about it? What can we put in place to support our kids? A strong PBIS system reduces disciplinary incidents by 50+%. So when we're looking at the number of kids that are being suspended, we want to reduce that by having strong PBIS. Next slide. So our focus is on tier 1, that green level, across the buildings. We really have to have a strong tier 1 system before we can develop and really implement a strong tier 2 system. So our goal, this is our district behavior goal. 100% of buildings will have an 80+% TFI. TFI is a scoring system. It's a tiered fidelity inventory where we go in and we measure how well our schools implementing PBIS. And 80+% is super strong. We just completed that last week, and so we'll do it again at the end of the year. So schools, they got their scores, and they're gonna say, how can we adjust this, do better, fix things, where do we need to put our attention? And then we'll measure it again at the end as we continue to work on this. So that's just kind of setting the stage so you guys understand a lot of what the principals will be sharing with you. We're going to start with North Mason High School because I think they got some supervision that's happening and they got to get to them immediately. So I'll turn it over to North Mason.
Welcome.
Good evening, board. Thanks for having us. I'm Chad Collins, Steve Hackett. Steve's going to take you through just a little bit of our data on some key areas, and then we'll talk about some of the strategies we're doing to improve things.
Okay.
You can hear from Chad's voice, he's warming up to head back so he can do a solo in the choir tonight. That's why we have to leave early. So on the left side, you'll see there's a number 19 and number 13. So that is the first two columns there. That's suspensions that happened for if you had tobacco, if you were using marijuana, if you were using alcohol at school. So the first one, 19, that was last year, from the first day of school to last week in December. So that was 19 suspensions for one of those three things. And then the one next to it, 13, that's this year, so obviously it's down a little bit. for suspensions are down for those things, for tobacco, alcohol, or marijuana.
So last year was at the full school year, or you're
No,
saying
it's
just
the
this
same
month?
chunk of time.
Okay.
Same chunk of
Okay.
time from the first day of school to the first week in December.
Gotcha.
And then for fighting, that's exactly the same, 2 suspensions for there.
Oh.
And then from that time period, and then when we look at over the discipline data, the thing we saw that really spiked, obviously it wasn't the other ones, is we saw our tardy count was going way up. And we're like, man, we got a little situation here. There's a lot of tardies that are coming in, and you can see it almost doubled from last year. And so that was something we'll talk about in the next slide of when you see, like Chris mentioned, when you see a spike in data, you have to come up with some type of plan to look into it. So our next slide shows the things that we've done to set the standards and go over the standards for all of our students. And the first one we did was Rise Above Day. And that came to us, I said it right, that came to us from a teacher who their school did this in Florida. And they did it for the first 3 days of school. And they just spent the first 3 days talking about talking about procedures, and this is how we do everything at school, just explaining everything for the whole school year. And we kind of like, well, we like it, but 3 days is a lot. So let's meet in the middle, let's give you the first day. And really, it was a day for, the big key was to go over, the kids understand the rules and all of that kind of stuff. But then also for the kids to be able to see our teachers, not as that person standing in the front of the room teaching you about social studies or teaching you math. There was a lot of activities. You stayed with your homeroom all day. There was fun activities where there's a scavenger hunt. You had to go around to different teachers and get a signature, so you had to meet all the different teachers. There was a spelling bee. There was, I think, capture the flag versus staff versus students a little bit. So it was a whole day, and then we had skits. We had assemblies throughout the day for the whole school to come to the commons, or to the gym, I'm sorry. And every department would give a skit about a different part of the student handbook. So our office did one on when you can get a note if you're late to school and where you go about that. And some did some about parking lots and things like that. And the kids really enjoyed it. The staff were already planning for next year how to make it bigger and better, so that's fun. One of the things we used this for was every year the students go and they do a handbook quiz at the end of it just to say, I understand all the handbook, boom, boom, boom. Well, we did this from the skits, then they go back in their homeroom and take it. And then any time in the year, and we've used this over the last few months, if a student maybe is in our office, maybe they had a rough day and have some kind of thing going on, so they're hanging out, we always start with, hey, you're down in the lower parking lot. Were you here the first day of school? Yeah, I saw the skit. I shouldn't have been down in the parking lot. So they know right away. So then we can just kind of move on from there. And it's really been the big icebreaker, not, hey, you did wrong. It's, hey, let's talk about this and figure out what's going on. So that Rise Above Day was something new for us this year. I think it's something that's going to grow and be a really, really impactful thing.
Student of the Month, we've had that for a while. We're continuing that. Teachers and admin recommend a student of to 2 from each grade level, Student of the Month, and then a student goes and interviews them, and they're posted in our TVs in the Commons. And they're just scrolling through all day. And it's pretty powerful to watch kids at lunch seeing their friend up there, seeing what they're going to do after school and what their plan is and whether they want to go to school or they want to get a job. And it empowers them to try to achieve, to get their face up there. We see that every day.
And then Character Strong is our social emotional curriculum that we use K through 12. It's built into our school counselors do a good job of providing a calendar for teachers. We do it every Wednesday in homeroom. So about twice a month we'll have a Character Strong lesson. And all of it is all linked right there, so our teachers just have to click on it, and then they can go through this social emotional curriculum with their homeroom students. So we get about 2 of those every month.
Dog tags, you guys are familiar with those. We talked about those last month. That's where the Rise Above dog tag came from, resulted from our Rise Above Day. Continuing with these, it's cool to see them on laptops, water bottles, cars. Building our brand, kids being proud of where they go to school.
That's great. Are there any limits to the Student of the Month? Like, can you be one multiple times in a year? Oh, you can?
Sure.
It goes from just teacher nominations, so you just nominate them and.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And have you guys addressed in your, as you've looked at this data, why the tardies are happening more?
Oh,
Well, that's what we're gonna,
That's
that's
our
our
next
next
one.
thought
Oh,
is-
okay.
So.
Oh, I didn't see
we
another slide.
we saw obviously the growth in it. We showed you on the chart, and so kind of sitting around thinking about some plans. And so we came up with an idea. Right now, there's a bell to get out of class, obviously, and then you have 6-minute passing time in there. So we've put another bell in at the 5-minute mark. So when there's 1 minute left, it's a whole different sounding bell. And when that bell goes, that's the hey, we got to clear the halls, get going to class. It's go time. You have less than a minute. And just to kind of help, when we had Aaron with the announcements in the morning, kind of warn people like, hey, we got this other bell coming, we got to clean up tardies. And so it's a whole different sounding bell. And I mean, we've been doing it for 3 weeks, so obviously it's a little early to say it's been perfect. But I do see, like, you just look down the hall.
You see
and
kids running.
It's a
when they-
lot better.
When they hear that new bell.
Yeah, you see, the couple is now walking fast so they can get back to their class, and so they're hustling to get back once they hear that different bell. So it'll be interesting to pull it here once we get a month or 2 months
Yeah.
into it to be able to see something that simple of just changing a tardy bell. But then you're also explaining to the kids how important it is to be on time, and once you do that, with a good system, they'll get into it.
But you asked the why.
Yeah,
Not sure.
it's just that class of
But we're
kids coming
emphasizing,
in.
like Chris said, you got to be in class to learn.
Is it mostly like younger classmen?
I don't think you can say
No.
that.
No,
Okay.
no, it'd be across the board, and yeah.
Are these kids that are tardy running from their cars mostly, like, or from outside, or are they just standing in the hallways and then coming into class?
Not managing their time as well as they
Yeah.
can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Option B
Okay.
would be the stronger one.
Yeah.
Standing
I
around a
could
little
agree with
bit,
that
yeah.
one.
Because if you're running from your car, we can make that adjustment. Hey, leave a little early, or you see
Yeah.
that. But if
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
And we have talks with kids that come to school late, where they show up 5 minutes late, but they have a coffee in their hand.
Oh, yeah.
So it gives us an opportunity to talk about
Right.
time management.
Erin, I'm curious if you have any, your observations on this, just being a high school student.
Well, during my passing time, I go to other classes, usually stop by some other teachers, talk to them about stuff. So having the tardy bell does help if, hey, should wrap up this conversation, get to class where I'm
Right.
meant to be. So I've noticed it helping. But also with tardies, I am often late to my classes, but my teacher never marks me tardy. So I think it's more of like
You were
maybe
supposed to
teachers
say
are just like
that.
more on top of it this year. I don't know.
We got it
But-
on tape too.
I don't know.
You would
Allegedly,
use us
tardy
to-
to class. According to the system, I don't know, but
Is there a repercussion for being so many tardies?
Well, not in
18,
Aaron's
right?
classes,
Is it-
obviously. But for everyone
We're
else.
gonna pull his schedule
Yeah,
and talk to
Aaron,
those
good
teachers.
job.
A
Yeah.
suspension?
Day off.
So after
No,
3
it's a one.
tardies, you do get a detention.
Detention.
And so then there's a detention for everyone after that. And
Oh.
so with the detention, there's phone calls home, there's all these steps, and obviously you get the robocall that your kid was tardy. And so there's a lot
Gotcha.
of notification that goes to parents, but then there's a detention for after 3.
And we give kids an option based on their schedule. When they get a detention, they can do half hour after school. But if they can't get a ride, they can do 2 lunch detentions, which is 15 minutes during their lunch. Helping us clean up, do a little community service.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions, other
Well, I just
board or
wanted to
comments?
thank you folks for many of the visual things were presented, not by our treasurer, not by our economic officer, have a lot of acronyms that are never explained. And you folks seem to have gotten the memo. And there's not an acronym you presented that wasn't explained.
Yeah, I do
I
like
just
that.
want to express my gratitude.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you, guys.
Belfair Elementary being next.
Next, thank you.
Good luck with whatever
Yeah, with your
is
singing.
happening. I like the Christmas sweater.
Us here for sure.
Hi, I'm Jessica Collins, principal at Belfair Elementary.
Christine Mark, assistant principal.
Yes, and we are here to talk about our discipline. And along with that, we are going to discuss our tiered fidelity inventory scores. I think we'll start off with that. Our tier TFI is what Chris explained to you. It measures the fidelity that we of our PBIS in our school for our tier 1 supports for students. And as you can see, I can hardly see, but it dates back to 2022 school year, and we have increased. We're doing really well. Last year, we left in the spring at 90%, and this year we started the year at 90% as well. When you get to a certain percentage in Tier 1, you can then move on and do the TFI in Tier 2. We're hoping to get that done here again soon, and so we're really focusing on our Tier 2. We've been really proud of our building leadership team. They help us really build action plans moving forward. We usually take a pre-test in August saying, okay, where are we at in our TFI? What areas do we need to focus on? And then we build an action plan, and we've been doing a lot of good work. Proud of them. Yeah.
Thank you for zooming in, Jackie. If you could just go up to the top, it pulls up the ODRs. Like the high school said, we just pulled August to December. We didn't want to pull the whole data, the whole year, because it would just mess up the numbers for you. So looking at this, you can see on the left side, the 135 was August to December of last year. So that was on average 2.21 referrals a day that were being put in. And then you look over to this year, there's 247 as of last week. So that went up to 3.98 per day.
Do you want to know why?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm just gonna wait.
I would want to know why, because we've almost doubled. I think that there's positive wise. We are really trying to get our teachers to engage in this input of discipline process, and making sure that we're holding our students accountable for their behaviors, protecting the learning environment, and adjusting to students' behaviors. Students' behaviors are difficult right now, and they can be very extreme, and we are really trying to teach, reteach, yet have a consequence in place also if they aren't learning from those mistakes. So we've been working really closely with our team, our teachers, to support our students and our teachers to ensure that kids are learning from their mistakes.
So then if you scroll down a little bit is our suspensions. We broke it down to OSS is out of school suspensions, which last year there was, or from August to December, there was 0. This year it's been 7.5. And then ISS is in school suspension. We were at 14.6 last year, and then we're up to 24.5. And then so that totals at the bottom or on the far right, 14.6 for the whole year from August to December last year, and then 32. So like Jessica said, our numbers are doubling. We're putting more of an emphasis on not just stay in classroom. We want that learning for the whole classroom. If we have to pull one kid out, address some behaviors to get them back in and get reset so it doesn't disturb everybody's learning, we want to make sure that it doesn't ruin the whole day for everybody, that they're just putting up with behaviors in the classroom.
And what does an in-school suspension look like?
In school, they are in the office, they're working with our MTSS para, they have the schoolwork, teachers come and check in on them, they do lunch, they go out and do a walk for recess and stuff like that, but they don't see their peers.
They don't, yeah, so they do lunch, but in that classroom.
In the classroom, yeah. So, and we usually kind of pass the kid around, because we always are on call, so they get to talk to us as well,
They
so
do, yeah.
we kind of have good heart-to-heart conversations and making sure that they are learning from it.
And what happens if you have more than one per day?
We have 2 different cubbies in one room, and then I'm right next to it, so we are quite set up for having more than one.
Do you often have like 2 or 3?
Our vapors, we had
Yeah,
we had a group. So yeah, we had a group where there was large, yeah. I think
Okay.
it was 4 of them, 3 or 4
Or
of them.
vapors, gotcha. For a minute I didn't
Vapors,
know what
yeah,
we meant.
they
Okay.
got in some trouble.
But we've really put that focus of we want them in school suspended, where we still get the academics,
Yeah.
the teachers still
Oh,
can check in,
100%.
they still get food, and it makes a huge difference. So we're really looking at something that doesn't work. We want to, if we come again, if they're that second or third one, what can we do this time to help that kid? So these are our strategies and systems to reinforce it.
So to reinforce our PBIS systems for Tier 1, which is what all kids get, we have a positive shop, which is a kind of a token economy. Kids earn for living, breathing, and being our pillars, that they are safe, kind, responsible, and respectful. They are rewarded for that. When they collect a certain amount, they then get to turn it in and purchase either items or experiences. You know, we had a VP for the day, those type of things. A lot of our kids really buy into this. We are refocusing for our older students. We're getting some feedback that maybe they don't have as much buy-in, so we're trying to come back together after the beginning of the new year and have some things for them, for our 4th and 5th graders to dig into and want to earn. We also have positive office referrals. So our system that allows teachers to input some reteaching discipline referrals, they are also able to put in positive office referrals so that we can acknowledge those students that are doing the right thing. We teach our PBIS expectations 3 times a year. We're doing something a little bit different coming back in January. We are noticing that our K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they may have different needs or different focuses for what we should probably be reteaching. So we are going to customize our reteaching experience based on our ODR data that says these kids are really having a hard time keeping their hands to themselves, these kids are doing, anyway. So we're gonna customize it coming back so that it's not as general. We're getting a little more into the Tier 2 level with our January reteaching. We teach Character Strong daily. We also have what we call our SEL, or our SEL win time, where we do small group instruction during that Character Strong for those kids that need an additional layer. We have our monthly assemblies where we recognize our character traits in students that are distinguished in that category. We do daily morning announcements around our 4 pillars of expectations. We have a little saying that we all say together and all the kids repeat in the classrooms. And then we use a behavior matrix that is visible to all students and all people all over the building, which will define what it looks and sounds like to be in the bathroom at Belfair Elementary, or to be in the office, or to be walking down the hallway, so that everybody knows the expectations.
Wonderful. So Tier 2 and Tier 3, we do a bi-weekly meeting where we look at the behavior data. We dive into it. We have some students on a check-in, check-out that they're focusing on their goals. We kind of look to see areas that we can improve. Hey, they're really struggling, reassess what can we do here. So we dive really deep into data there. Our MTSS para has a de-escalation Excel tracker document that breaks down when she gets a call, who it was for, and the reason for it, and what helped that student to get re-engaged in learning. So we look over that to see if there's a lot of high flyers that need breaks at certain times. We have attendance concerns that we look at, nurses' visits, student concern forms that teachers and parents can also do, and then social emotional, the savers that counselors and teachers are. Like Jessica said, we do the positive office referrals. We're getting more involved with that, doing it online. We have a reboot resets room where if a student is just needing a break, just even as adults, we sometimes need to get up and move. We get that ability to do it. Now they can just say, hey, I need a break, I need to get refocused. So they come out, they get reset. Jessica also said the SEL win time, so they have a designated 20 minutes every day for them to, or 4 days a week, to work on that intense. Our counselor provides lunch bunch, so she gets the kids together and helps them interact and have peer conversations without technology, so that's awesome. She does morning breakfast club with, they eat, they talk, but then she also makes sure that their teeth are brushed, their hair's combed, and talks about, hey, showering, all that kind of stuff. So kind of gets the kids ready for the day, helps them with clothes, and so then when they go into class, it's not as they came off the bus. Volunteer system, we have a lot of, our counselor provides a lot of elderly seniors to come in and read, and there's a whole bunch of kids, adults over here, and they just read and work with all the kids. It's like a joy for the kids to see, and for the gentlemen and females. Yeah. And then we have detention system that we just added. This was something that we noticed was lacking, so on Wednesdays with early release. So kids can have detention after school from 2:30 to 3:30 based on whatever the issue was and age. If they're not able to do that, then they miss recess. And then they have an alternate recess opportunity as well. If an issue happens at recess, we take them to a different location, reteach them without having all the classes there. And then we have that check-in and check-out.
Could you kind of went through it fast, the check-in, check-out. Can you elaborate on that again?
I wish I had a picture for you. So it's just, we have our 4 pillars laying out there, and they can do a 0, 1, or 2. And it's kind of broken down into hour periods, or we're doing AM, PM, if they met their goal. If they were respectful, they get a 2.
Okay.
If they weren't, needed some reminders, it would be a 1, and then retry tomorrow is 0. And then we total that up, and we want them to try to get 80% every day. I know it's hard because I don't have it with me, so.
So they check, when you say they check in, they like
Check in with an
with you,
adult.
with their whoever's
Teacher
been
or
assigned to
our
them.
MTSS para.
And then they reevaluate that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look what they can do different for tomorrow.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a couple more questions. What triggers the out-of-school suspension versus the in-school?
Good question. I would say it depends on maybe the severity of the action. It also, I think, depends on the student, the individual. If we know, for example, a student that maybe the severity of the action would be like, ooh, that's really unsafe, but we know that sending them home is maybe not what's best for them.
Oh, I see.
We would really hope to do an in-school suspension process. For some kids, going home is what is best for them. It's communication with the families. We are working really hard to keep it in school. It takes a staffing. Also, we have to ensure that we have staffing to watch the students. So that's sometimes difficult. If we know that we don't have that, then it would have to be an out-of-school suspension. But our goal is to have an in-school suspension. But there are just some things that maybe we need to send them home to have time to build a plan to ensure the safety of themselves and others, something like that.
I understand there's lots of extenuating circumstances, it sounds like, and I can only imagine, but do you have it sort of written out, though? Like, these are generally we're gonna have in-school suspensions for these reasons, generally out of school for these reasons.
I don't think we have it clearly defined,
Yeah.
no. I would say that if it's a physical aggression and it is a danger to students,
Yeah.
then we would most likely do an out-of-school suspension so that we could create a plan to ensure everybody was safe. Otherwise, we would really work hard to make sure it was in school.
But you track in school, you track out of school, obviously, and
Yes.
you're looking at, I'm thinking of it from like an equity perspective, like thinking, that we're conscious of, okay, we're not always sending that student to an out-of-school suspension because we don't like him.
Right.
There's that
No,
unconscious
that would
bias.
not be happening.
Right, I know,
Yes,
I
yeah.
believe that, but if it's not, you know what I mean, like laid out, like, okay, these are the reasons you're being sent home, not because of XYZ, your demographics, right? That
Yes.
protects us.
I would say that, I hear what you're saying. If we have a student, yes, that we know that they're maybe going home to an unsafe environment, we would work hard to make sure that they had an in-school suspension.
Right.
Yeah.
We also worked on getting our system too. We put our SEL Win para, she was helping our MTSS to try to prevent as many ODRs at the beginning of the year. So we didn't have somebody in the office. Every call that went was her or I, we were going, and we were all over the place. But then we were like, hey, we need to have in-school suspension. So we re-looked at our program and made sure that we had that adult that was designated for if we had needed in-school suspension. And there are some times that we give options for parents and say, hey,
Right.
what's best? In-school suspension, out-of-school suspension. We want to do what's, the kid better than we do as families. So there's a lot of times it's just parent
Yeah.
choice too.
Yeah, I have a nephew in the University Place School District, and they have totally different philosophies, and it's very frustrating the amount of time he spends out of school when it's like, he's not learning anything now, you know?
Yeah.
Nobody's watching him.
And I think that's one thing that we look at when, you know, for example, a kid threatens to hurt someone or
Right.
does hurt someone. There's often time where we need time, again, to build that plan, to make sure that kids are safe. But if that student is not going to be safe at home, or their needs are not going to be met at home, or their learning's not going to be done at home, if they don't have Wi-Fi, if they don't have someone at home to support them through the learning, then we need to look at a different way to make that happen.
Yeah. And then the student concern forms, you mentioned it could be, what is that? You said a parent can fill that out too, or what is that?
Parents can request it, saying,
Uh-huh.
hey, my student, I just feel like they need maybe a concern with academics or behaviors, or maybe they just have some anxiety or anything like that. And then that comes to our team, we look at the data, and we could move forward with interventions just with that, or if we needed to for testing.
So it's parent-driven or
And teacher.
And teacher,
Yeah,
okay.
teachers can do it on forms and submit it. Parents usually are communicating. We're still trying to get that hooked up onto our
I see.
website so they can do it.
We just want to make sure that, any parent that has a concern has an avenue that they can take
Yeah.
to,
That
be
makes
heard.
sense. That's a good, is that district-wide, the student of concern form?
Yes.
Okay.
At least at the elementary level, we have a common
Well, it
student
just would
concern.
be, it's good for, that's good for us as we hear, parent complaints to be like, hey, you have this concern with your student. I hear there's a process that you can fill this out.
And I think that the student of concern form that we are speaking about here is more around, okay, I'm worried my student has a disability. I'm worried
Yeah.
that there are,
Yeah.
so they have an avenue.
They
Yep.
have a way to do that. Other comments or questions?
Yeah, you mentioned something about, there's a couple of words I missed, and it made a very interesting sentence, and I won't tell you what it is. But, you mentioned something about seniors and kids having a good time.
Yeah.
Could you say something about,
I think you nailed it. That was exactly
That was
it.
pretty close there.
what do they do?
They bring they get to know the kids. Some of them like sports, so they bring in newspaper articles,
Yes.
read that together. I know Mrs. Thomas's hallway, they have a whole plan of, hey, my kid needs to work on this reading. And she goes out there and meets with them and talks, and they pull and work. So it's in the library, it's in the hallways, reading, talking. Sometimes it's even our recess person, he doesn't take a lunch. He takes it, but he chooses to go be with the kids and teach them to play chess. And
And
play the
guitar.
And so those are
awesome.
things,
That
like,
is
we just have a lot of people that are invested in our kids that just come. One of them's an old doctor that he just raves about our kids, and so it gives us joy, makes my heart
So
happy.
it's a cadre of volunteers,
Yeah.
of any age.
So you're welcome to come join.
Yeah.
Yes,
Anybody is
John,
to-
there you go.
Well, I represent a different constituency now, and I'll keep that in mind.
That is something that my grandmother did
Yep.
at Sand Hill.
Yep.
When she first moved over here, is go up and read to the kids, so it's
Yeah.
awesome to see that still going.
Yeah, it's pretty cute. I love the newspaper. I'm like, walk by and I've got kids reading a newspaper. I mean, that just doesn't
So
happen, right?
cute.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's so cool.
Yep.
Anything else, folks? Okay, thank you guys so much.
You're welcome. Thanks.
And Hawkins, switching it up.
Good evening. So just to start off with Hawkins Middle School, I want to share our vision, which is that our vision at Hawkins Middle School is for all students to feel safe, valued, and nurtured, allowing them to find personal and academic success in an inclusive school community that challenges them to grow into a productive and positive citizen. And I like to just share that every time because it is inclusive not just of academics, but also of community, citizenship, and self-worth. The first thing that I want to show here is our triangle of data for ODRs and referrals at Hawkins. And oftentimes they say that if you have 80% of your students meeting the expectations, that you're doing a really great tiered system. And I pulled this one up and it showed that we went from about 60% of our students not receiving referrals, or maybe just one, to 80% over the course of from last year to this year. And so that does show a strong growth in helping our students act in the correct way at school, be students. Next one. Thank you. So strategies in order to reinforce our positive behavior system at school. First of all, our blueprint guides everything we do. And it is quite extensive. And if you've gone to look at it, which I think you have at the beginning of the year, it goes down to what are the expectations for the teachers in class, in the halls? What are the students' expectations for the students in class, in the halls? And what are the expectations of parents that we have for them when the kids come home? And just sharing that with teachers, making sure that's what matches our beliefs in our school, and then also sharing that with students when they come in at the beginning of school. We also reinforce these expectations with students after the winter break and then again after the spring break, so that we can continue to talk to them about those expectations here throughout the year. And every year, our staff re-looks at that blueprint and it makes adjustments in order to move forward to the next year, because there's always hot topics that come up over the course of the year that we want to improve on and work on. We maybe got one piece down, we want to move into trying to help and improve other areas of the school. And these expectations are all taught within the first 2 weeks of school. We put out a schedule of in what class, what sections are being taught, and assessed with the students so that they know the expectations they have at school. One of the things that we changed this year, though, is that we developed an advisory that meets 4 times a week, Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And what we did differently with the advisory this year is we mixed our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders together. And that has made an amazing difference in the community of the school and with the kids in those classes. I go in regularly to teach lessons in our advisory classes, and I'm always just amazed by the interactions between the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And you could just see the 8th graders developing that mentor relationship with some of those 6th graders and taking them on as part of that advisory family there. And in that advisory, they work on their SEL parts, and our Character Strong is our SEL component that we do. And 2 days of that week are doing Character Strong lessons, and another 2 days are usually on other things such as developing digital citizenship or looking at AVID learning strategies and things like that. And so we're very intentional about what we want to bring into the classes. We had, unfortunately, a rise of students using foul language about a month or 2 ago. And I put together a lesson myself and went into every advisory and taught that for the students to know how important it was that we address this and not bring it into our community. We use pause cards as positive recognition of kids doing the right things in class on a regular basis. And the kids turn those cards in for monthly time to be part of the monthly celebrations, whether they to go to a movie, to go play a board game, or things like that. So we try to connect that to positive things that kids want to do, and we put out surveys to see what is it they want as a reward for doing the right things at school, so that it's something that's meaningful to them. We do our Students of the Month every single month, that based on the Character Strong traits. And every month we have about 20 to 25 kids that we recognize, trying to go through and trying to, it'd be wonderful to recognize every single student over the course of the year. And that's kind of our goal of what we're trying to do. What we've started to do is start posting their names in the entryway as we come into our school. And the kids, when they see their names on there, just light up. It's even more so when I post it in the videos that go out to parents on a weekly basis. So those are kind of some of the things that we're doing to reinforce the behaviors that we want to see at school. Unfortunately, we do have negative behaviors that happen. And so how do we address that? Well, first off, our MTSS team, which is made up of admin, counselors, and our MTS paras, meet on a biweekly basis to look at our behavioral data and where are we. And that behavioral data includes the referrals that we're getting. It includes the reports that we may get from kids, and it includes our HSP data, which I'll explain a little bit about that in a moment. While we're looking at that, we assign the students that we see having chronic behavior issues into tiered systems of support, and that could be the check-in, check-out. It could be just a check and connect on a regular basis with kids, or it could actually be going to the point of doing individual or group counseling to support them in making better choices. And then we determine the strategies to reward the students based on those needs of the individuals in the groups. And oftentimes that requires bringing them in and talking to them and see, well, what would be a reward to support you in doing the right thing here for this week? And that work towards a reward oftentimes has the biggest benefit for seeing students improve in their behavior. So I talked a little bit about HSP, which basically we call it the Husky Solutions Project. We started this a few years ago because kids were needing to be taken out of class for behaviors that are happening. And it's the whole point of the Husky Solution Project is to have them in class. So basically, a student's brought out of class. First thing they do is they come in and they're set to reflect on the behavior that happened. Sometimes they need a cool down period before they can reflect. And that can be done either through writing or with interview with the para that's operating the HSP room. That para connects with them, talks about the behavior, talks about other strategies, things that they can do to support being back in the class. The para then supports the student in making a phone call home with the parent to let them know, hey, I'm in HSP right now, this is what happened, you're going to get a call from the teacher later, but I wanted to connect with you. That is an important piece, because the parent knows that we are trying to bring them back into the class and we're trying to have them help in that support. At that point, once the MTS para sees that the students reset, and most of the time it's happened before the period is over, they are then brought into the next class. Nothing else we're doing. It's not a discipline to be there. It is a reset, refocus in order to get them to class so that they can do better for the rest of the day. This I do every single month. I show it to the teachers to say, this is where we are right now. And this is an example of November's data. In November, we had 48 students that came to HSP. Of those 48, only 10%, well, I mean, that's 10% of the entire student body, right there, okay? Only 4% of the student body have come more than once. So for the vast majority of those kids, of that 48 kids, they come one time in a month, reset, refocus, and they're back in the class. That is amazing for that, to see that. And then, of course, you get to the point where you look over there and you say, well, there's 3 kids in 7th grade that were there 4 more times in that one. One of those kids probably was there 9 times. Those are some of our chronic kids that need extra support. And this is the data that we use when we look at our Tier 2 and 3 team to decide, okay, what are we doing about Bobby here in order to help him be more successful in the class and not be pulling out so much. And so this is pretty important for us to use each month as we look at our data. Is there another one? Nope, that's it. Okay.
Are there any questions for Hawkins? No. Thank you.
Well done.
A lot
Well done.
to think about.
My son's called from that room before.
PAUSE is actually our school-wide expectations. So it stands for positive, always respectful, work ethic in class, and safe in the school.
Yeah. I've made notes of some of these just to share with my sister-in-law for her son. So this is good work. Thank you for what you do.
I'll just say, my son has called me from that room before, and in that class out there, and he reset, and he's also gotten pause. He gets rewarded as well. So a reset doesn't make a kid a bad kid, but it also.
And that's one thing is we try not to show to the kids that being in there is a consequence. Being in there is kind of that reset piece. We all do that. We get you right back. Today,
I hear him breathe.
Today I had a young girl that couldn't go there, wouldn't go there. And so I just sat in the hallway with her for 15 minutes, talking with her, until finally it's like, okay, I'll go to class now.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes all a kid really needs to move forward for the rest of the day.
Middle school is hard.
It is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, Sand Hill.
Good evening.
These sweaters, man.
Yeah.
I need to get one. I feel bad that I came in a dress.
I'm Jason Swayzer, principal at Sand Hill Elementary. I'd like to start with our triangulated data report, and kind of what you see here in 22-23 is we're around 85% of our tier 1 supports being effective for our student body, and then now through this year up through December we are in the mid-90s, and that just shows me that the things that we are doing for tier 1 are working for 90+% of our kids at this current time.
Wow.
And you did the same as the others with the, like the 22 data is the short month, 3
Yeah.
months worth?
The 23-24 is from September to now.
Now,
And
but-
then last year was all year.
Oh, it is all year,
Yeah,
okay.
so you gotta kind of,
Okay.
This is our average referrals per day per month. So you can see the green is all of last year's data, and then the blue is where we are currently at as far as referrals coming into the office. This is our behavioral discipline data. And again, the green is last year, all last year, and the blue is this year so far. So we kind of look at this data, and what stands out to me when I see this is if you go over to the defiance category, kind of towards the end, you see that the blue is really high, and we're just 4 months into the year. What's happening here? So this is a point where we can look at that data and what is happening with our students school-wide that is increasing that defiance. So that's kind of how we utilize this data.
What is that third, the PAGG?
Physical aggression.
Oh, okay. What's outbounds mean? It's
Physical
after-
aggression toward whom? Teacher or student?
Typically peers.
There's
Beg pardon?
Typically peers.
outbound, it's after fight, outbounds. There's like only a tiny,
Outbounds.
playground areas.
What do you see? Where are you seeing it at?
Right there, she's circling it, outbounds. There was none last year and.
Off campus?
Tiny bit. They
Off
like
campus.
wandered off campus, interesting.
What about the bomb?
Bomb,
There's a bomb on there.
bomb threat.
What's that? What's
I
going
guess
on?
we have one, yeah.
Jason's like, I wish
No,
I
I was
had
wondering,
not
is that
put this
what
on here.
it sounds like?
Our categories sometimes have weird
Yeah.
things in them.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes
like-
we look at that like, okay, why is that there? And then we can dig deeper and what was that about? Sometimes I have referrals submitted for, Sunday afternoon. And so the data sometimes doesn't reflect what's actually happening in the school day. So we look deeper at concerns like that, so that would pop up as a
What does the M mean in front of some of them? Like so-
minor.
Oh, okay, okay. I appreciate this slide because I actually was wondering this about the other slides.
Yeah, I don't mean to overreact.
No, it's okay.
Well, the bomb, and then there's like a little green thing there, and I imagine that if they talked about it, or if they.
Usually if a kid talks about that at school
Yeah.
with peers, then that's an issue and we address that.
No, I appreciate that actually there is a green there, because that is probably something that comes up, and if you guys weren't addressing it, I would be like.
And there's none this year, so that's
Yeah, there's no
good.
green there, yeah, so, yeah.
Well, I think you've done really well on that, and I bet our stats
Very
really
in-depth.
compare well with that of other schools on the bomb threat.
Yeah.
What is
We've handled that well.
Does
Thank
tech
you.
mean
Yeah,
that they
well, it
had?
looked- I mean, that's really superior. We can be proud of that.
Yeah.
Does tech mean they had like their cell phones with them or something?
Yeah, there's tech violations around students accessing sites that they're not supposed to when they're doing their schoolwork.
Gotcha. Okay.
What's this one?
Minor dress code. Minor dress code.
Dress code violation?
We're guessing.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
heard on the last elementary about vaping. Is that something that really the kids at under fifth grade? Like, that's not candy. You know, like,
Yeah.
that disturbs me. Even smoking back then was not, like, even the kids were scared to a certain point, and now this vaping comes around, and the kids
so
are like,
lax
oh,
about it, yeah.
yeah, this is what we do now, because we're in elementary school, and that's
Great.
Yeah.
My
Thumbs
son's
up.
scared of it, so I'm very excited.
That's good.
You're lucky.
He goes at drugs.
Our discipline data in suspensions, as you can see, last year we were 2.01 in school per day, 62% of the year, 62 kids throughout the year, 0.25. And then currently through December, we are 14.3 out of school suspensions so far, and no in-school suspensions.
14 days, but 12 different events. And
Correct.
10 students.
Contributing, yep.
So 10 students, okay. 10 students, 12 times 14 days, gotcha.
So in order to work on our reinforcing these positive behaviors, we have our behavioral expectations matrix, and we work on this every August and redefine some of the language inside of it. You need to be really specific in the language you use inside of these boxes. No more than 2 bulleted items for our kids to really understand and comprehend, and really specific. As you can see, if you go across from left to right, you see the areas of the school and actual areas in our building, so kids understand what we're actually talking about. And then down on the left column, you'll see our pillars: respect, responsibility, safety, and kindness. So in each category, each column, there is what the expected behavior is, and this is taught in all of our classes in 3 parts of the year, like at Belfair, after winter break, at the beginning of the year, and then after spring break. And these are hung up in classrooms. We also made a commitment in our blueprint that teachers go over this in their classroom and also create one for their specific classroom with student voice involved. So if you see in our classrooms, you will see a lot of posters that generated with student voice around what expectations are for that specific classroom. Strategies to reinforce positive behaviors. We have posters throughout our building that just remind students of what we are expecting their behavior to be in all areas. So all these posters align with the behavior matrix. School mascot, Chris the Cougar, is there. And it will be posted in all areas of the school building. We currently have some older ones, but we are in the process of revamping. And strategies to reinforce positive behavior. We also do the positive tickets and the token economy, the positive shop. We provide kids with, they can earn those tickets, and we work intentionally to hand these tickets out to kids and say, thank you for being responsible doing so-and-so. This is what we saw you doing. Really intentional for handing these out. And then students can use those about every 6 weeks to go shopping at the positive shop, where we have cool items for them to purchase. And then we have monthly pod parties, celebrations, where we meet in the pod with every grade level, and we get to honor and recognize those students who have met their Character Strong Word of the Month. And we give them certificates. We also recognize them for meeting some of our characteristics of independent learners. And we also give them a golden ticket for being at school 90% or more of the time that month. And that golden ticket's worth 10 positives.
Wow.
Some more systems. We have instilled a PBIS staff committee. So we have a committee that works specifically around our PBIS practices in the building, and that is teachers building those systems in our school. Tier 2-3 team is a team that meets weekly and discusses and looks at our discipline data and other data and decides how are we going to meet the needs of our kids. And then every classroom has a calming station, where students are explicitly taught how to manage their emotions and utilize strategies to get them back engaged in the learning. And then student breaks as well. We provide proactive breaks for students. If we see that a student is struggling, they can ask us for a break, and we will provide that, and it's strategic in how we do that. Maybe a 3-minute walk around the building, or just a chance to connect, and then we get them back in class. We try to get them before we see an escalation.
Thank you. I had a couple questions. Sorry to be really nitty-gritty on your slides. One was in the behavior matrix, there was something called Using Kelso's Choices.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
The use of Kelso's Choices was something that we all use, but some teachers still find it valuable. So it's this green frog named Kelso, and he provides all these different choices for kids to choose from.
Okay.
Character Strong also provides a better opportunity that we're moving towards the decision tree. It's just another opportunity to give students examples and strategies of what to do in certain situations.
Very cool. And I just had a question about the slide right before that. With the last year's data with the expulsion, one student but two different events. How does that work? If one student's been expelled, how is there a second event?
Well, that's a good question. I think it was the individual student, but it was more than a long-term suspension for something
Like an
serious.
emergency expulsion.
An emergency, something that happened. that
And
was
then
very
and then
serious.
eventually they were expelled again. Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
No.
This is very thorough. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
That was all very interesting. Thank you for putting up with our questions.
It was very positive.
Yeah.
You know?
Is it just me or have these visuals gotten a lot better? These things seem.
We've asked for them to be better, so they are.
How come?
Because
moved
we're
on to
really
just
focusing
PowerPoint?
on data.
We
and
want it
making
to be
sure
like
that
that.
we bring actual data to the conversations with the board that we are using to make decisions.
Huh, well, they're very sharp.
Yeah, they are. I'm excited for this next one.
Me too.
Go ahead.
Yeah, right, no pressure. Excited for this one. Well, thank you for having me. I guess I accidentally signed myself up for this one. It wasn't on any agenda, but in some conversations with John, we had some really great data to share out, and I wish I would have titled it TTK Data Share, because that's really what I want this to be about. Yeah, we're gonna go over like some real quick snippets of like information about the program, but I just have some great information regarding student achievement from our Transition to Kinder program. So up here, this was really just copied from our webpage, went from the TTK part, which is Transition to Kindergarten. It went under a name change this last year. It was previously Transitional Kindergarten. There's always been a lot of discussion ever since Transitional Kindergarten came out a few years back, and there's just a lot of back and forth of kind of how we fund Transitional Kindergarten, and there was a lot happening in the last year, but we were able to keep our two classes, and which we're really excited about, and I get to go over some of that information. So children age 4 by August 31st, and classes for our Transition to Kindergarten begin in September. There are a lot of programs across the state that don't start until January, and they use that time at the start of the year as kind of a recruiting process. We begin our recruiting a lot earlier, and with the intention of filling up those classrooms so that students get really close to that full 180 days of school. It's not quite 180 days, but we're able to still get them in like the first or second week of school, where others are starting in January. We have the 6 hour class day Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and a 4.5 hour class day on Wednesday. This is all of this for early learning is in partnership with ESD 114. Those of you that are kind of familiar, there's an application or a process, not really an application, but an interest form that you fill out from the website, and then it goes into it goes into kind of like a bank for everybody. There's a lot of people that take a look at it, and placement is dependent on several key factors. So we would, for students that do not qualify for state or federal programs, like we've had ECAP in years past. This year we have Head Start from ESD 114, which is a full day program as well. So students are placed in Head Start, and then we fill in our Transition to Kindergarten programs. We can go ahead and go to the next slide on this one. So we have 2 Transition to Kindergarten classrooms that are at Thiller in the portable classrooms. Right now, I believe we're sitting at 15, 16 students in each room. We kind of have a cap of around 18. We have a teacher in each classroom and a paraeducator. And a part that was exciting this year was being able to utilize some new curricular materials from Creative Curriculum. It's inquiry-based and really focuses on the WaKids standards. And some of you up here may have heard about WaKids in previous presentations. But WaKids is the inventory that our state collects, especially for kindergarten. But our TTK program also uses WaKids to determine readiness for our students. So on the next slide, it gets into WaKids. So teachers, the first several months, complete the WaKids assessment, and this data is then entered for the state. So they do this also in kindergarten. It's part of how we're funded for full day kindergarten, as well as by completing these WaKids assessments. And when I say assessment, it's not this, we sit down and fill out this piece of paper and move on. There's a lot of observational pieces that go along with it. That's why it's more than just like a one-day sit-down assessment. There's a lot of pieces that have to be completed by our teachers to complete the WaKids. Now, this is the part that I'm really excited to share out. So this is FastBridge. Some of you have heard about FastBridge in previous presentations. And so when students go into kindergarten, within the first several weeks, well, probably for our kindergartners, month or two, is when we get our first FastBridge early reading and early math assessments completed. And what this is comparing is, on the left is our TTK students from last year that are currently in kindergarten, and in comparison to all of our students in kindergarten. 82% of our former TTK students are in the low-risk category for reading. That's 28 students that we had from the program last year that are now in kindergarten. 82% of them are in the low risk. Some risk would be 14% and 4% in the high risk. And in comparison, which isn't that bad of data for our entire district actually, to have 45% of our students entering kindergarten in the low risk category, but you can see the difference between the two right here. The next slide is math. And we also see an increase for our students that are entering from transition to kindergarten. 75% of our kids are coming in with what FastBridge would determine as being in low risk. So I really wanted to get this information. I didn't have a whole lot that I wanted to share with everybody here, except for this is the power of our program at North Mason for transition to kindergarten.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
I'm trying to get the before and after. So you're saying 75% of the people that have had the FastBridge program come into school math competent, whereas only people that haven't had it are coming in.
It would actually be less than that, because that's including all of our kids. That's on the right. That's 165 of our kindergarten students at
And it
North Mason.
includes that
It includes all of
70%.
them. If we just take out our TTK students from last year, 75% of those 28 students that are in that triangle are considered in low risk for FastBridge reading or math assessment.
Yeah, FastBridge is the assessment, so
Yep.
they're studying all kindergartners, of course, and then they're doing the subset of who had TTK the year before.
Okay,
to
so
see how well
it
they
isn't
did.
before and after.
No, this is this year.
This is the current assessment that teachers in kindergarten completed with their kids in September, October timeframe.
So what it's showing is that having that TTK experience, the reason we started it is because we have so few kids in North Mason who have other opportunities for preschool. When kids have a solid preschool program, they are showing us that they're more ready than the whole group for kindergarten.
Right.
That makes sense.
It's
So
fantastic.
I think, yeah, just because it seems like the last 3 years, we've had some pieces going on at the state level that revolve around
Funding.
funding for transition to kindergarten. It seems like it comes up every year around January, February, and I believe it might start again.
Yeah, it
But we have the data that here in North Mason, our kids are coming in more prepared when they attend a program like we have here for transition to kindergarten. I think that data really shows that.
Do you have and this is, you said district-wide, right? So this is
Yes.
Belfair and Sandhill.
Yeah, those are combined.
And my son is in the program, and I've been there a couple days, so I do know there's a good sizable chunk, because his teacher will be like, okay, the Sandhill kids, meaning like the kids who are gonna go home to the Sandhill
Right.
buses.
Yes.
She'll be like, Sandhill kids, wait here. So do you feel like it's a pretty even split of
It
like
is.
they?
From that, it was, we had 28 and it was 15 Belfair and 13
Okay,
Sandhill.
that's
It was a
good.
pretty, it was
Yeah.
a pretty good split from last year
Okay.
on there.
Yeah.
And
it-
even this year, I think, I want to say that it's a pretty even split.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I think it is, and that's good. You just don't know. I
Right.
don't know if people think, oh, it's at Feller across from Belfair. It's a Belfair program only, but it's
Well,
district.
And one thing to point out, in North Mason, we provide transportation for TTK. That is not common
Yes.
across the
Yeah.
state either.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. That's amazing.
So.
It's
Very
my-
good. Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Dan, you've been so patient. We're at our budget status update. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yep.
Well, good evening, Board. And it's my pleasure actually to sit here and listen. So didn't really take a lot of patience. But I am glad to be here tonight to share the budget status report for the month, for the school year from September 1 through November 30th. We're going to begin with our other funds, fund balances. So with our capital projects fund, our fund balance at the end of November was $206,083. And that's just a small increase of $1,047 over the previous month. That's interest income. Our debt service fund balance at the end of November was at $635,254. And that is a decrease by $2,094,544 because we had some bond payments at the end of November. So we paid our voted and non-voted debt. We made one of our 2 annual payments. Our ASB fund balance at the end of November was $465,441, and a decrease of $24,129. And our transportation vehicle fund, our balance at the end of November was $335,048, an increase of $1,473. Again, that was interest income. On the next slide, we have our enrollment report. Now, the enrollment is as of our December count. And so our December count for our regular FTE was 2,273.43 FTE. And you can see with the graphs going across that the enrollment has pretty much stabilized more or less since October when we added the Running Start students. On the far right, our average for the year so far is 2,280.67 students. Now those, that graph does not include our transition to kindergarten students. Currently we have 30.5 students enrolled in the transition to kindergarten program. When we count the regular FTE plus TTK, we have 2,303.93 students. And with that, we're going to go on to our general fund status report. Again, this shows our budget status through the month of November. And on the top left, we can see our total revenues percentage. So our actual revenues collected percentage year to date is 22.52%. And our projection for this time period would be 23.98, so pretty close to what we projected. For our local revenues, at the end of November, we're at 38.5%, and we had projected we'd be at 40.12%. Our state sources, our revenues from state sources at the end of November were at 21.5% of our budgeted, and we had projected we'd be at 22%. And from federal sources, 15.31% collected. We had projected 24.35. Now, looking at the table below, this shows our top 10 sources of revenues year to date. I'll just focus on the top 3. So far, through November, we collected $5,322,956 in apportionment, $1,892,813 in special purpose unassigned revenues, and then our property tax collection through November was $1,498,839. Now let's go on to the next slide, please. So this shows the big picture with our total revenues. Our budgeted revenues for the year are $42,395,487. We projected by the end of November we would have collected $10,166,540, but our actual year-to-date at the end of November were $9,545,652. Let's go to the next slide, please. We're going to look at our expenditure summary. So our projected year-end balance as a percent of our budgeted expenditures at the end of November was 8.49%. Our total expenditures actual year-to-date through November were at 24.61%, and we projected we'd be at 25.89%. Our salaries and benefits expenditures, 23.6%, and we had projected we'd be at 24.49%. And for basic ed, 23.57%. We projected we'd be at 27.07% in basic ed. Our top 3 expenditures to date are basic ed, $4,892,974. District-wide support at $1,593,477. And special education supplemental, $1,172,130. And our next slide, we have a big picture for our expenditures to date through November. Our budgeted for the year, general fund expenditures are $42,495,683. We projected that at the end of November, we would have spent $11,105,286, and we spent less than that. Through November, we spent $10,554,534. The next slide has our fund balance, our actual and projected fund balances for the year. So from November to the left, that's all actual, and everything to the right of November is projected. So if we look at where we started from in August, we began this fiscal year with our fund balance at $4,469,268. And at the end of November, our fund balance was at $3,263,344. And if you remember, I've explained this in previous board meetings, that our apportionment percentage does fluctuate through the year, the percentage that the state gives us. So that does cause a lot of this difference from month to month. But you can also see the trend over the years kind of follows the same pattern. And we've been following the same pattern as in previous years. So this time of year, we expect that kind of dip in our fund balance. An important thing to see here is on the far right in August, that our budgeted year-end fund balance, we are saying that when we did the budget, that we'd have $3,783,873 in our fund balance. In our current state right now, through November, we're projected to have $3,642,297. So let's go on to the next slide, please. This is a good visual to show percentage-wise how we compare to last year with our revenues and expenditures. So in the table on the right at the top, we have our revenues. And a lot of that information I've already shared, but I asked you to look at the year-to-date percentage of budget. So our revenues through this point in time, through November 30th, we're at 22.52% for total revenues. And we can look at last year, we were at 20.99% at the same time of the year. And with expenditures, through November, we had spent 24.84% 24% of our budgeted expenditures. Compared to last year, we were at 24.24% a year ago. So pretty close in terms of the trend in our spending, our revenue collection pattern and our spending pattern to previous years. Our total end fund balance, again, is $3,263,344 at the end of November. And that concludes the budget status report.
Thank you.
Very good.
You've got another one for us.
Yes, I do. And it's my pleasure to present. This is the year-end financial report. So it's a summary. So every year we do what's called the year-end process, fiscal year-end process. And the product at the end of that is the F-196 report. And it's many, many pages. And that was included, I believe, in your board documents. This is just a very small summary of our fund balances in each fund that we were able to identify through the year-end process. And that will give you a snapshot of how we ended the year fiscally for the 22-23 school year. I love this picture here, and I wanted to start with this because I always want to, and you've heard me say this many times before, but I don't think I'll ever stop saying this. With my lens as a business director and as the assistant superintendent of finance and operations, that even though we're talking about numbers here, it's all about our students. And the real goal and the focus of mine, and also I would say the staff in the business office, is to try as best as we can to use our resources to have a positive impact on our students, from preschool and early learning all the way up to graduation and beyond. And so I do include a few pictures in here because I never want us to forget what our focus is and what our goal is with the resources that we have. So I love that picture because it shows early learners and the joy of learning. And I know that we have programs all the way through graduation where that joy still continues. So this is our general fund summary for last fiscal year. We began last fiscal year with a fund balance of $3,947,552. You can see our total revenues through the year were $41,226,527. We spent $40,308,850. We did transfer out $295,931 to our debt service fund to help us with our non-voted debt. And then we ended with a fund balance of $4,569,268. So that was a $621,746 increase over what we had started with. Let's go to the next slide. This shows our a 3-year comparison for our general fund, local, state, federal revenues. So you can just see across the years the difference, the increase. From in 2020, 2021, our total revenues were at $33,751,900. And last year it was $40,864,640. So almost $7 million increase.
What is the other category?
The other, let's see, that could be like fines and fees and collections, things like that. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't broken that apart too much, but it's other kinds of revenues we might have collected. Let's go to the next slide. Here, top 5 general funds by program. And here I included instructional programs. And you can see that basic ed is, really where most of our expenditures are happening, and that's our biggest program. Special education comes next, then voc ed, vocational education, and CTE, LAP, and title. And you can see the percentages there. Now, those are not all of our expenditures. Those are the top 5, and the top 5 do amount to $26,117,978. remember, our total expenditures for last fiscal year were 40 million. So there are other programs included, but they're smaller amounts. They're smaller than that last one, the 630,000. So I didn't want to just include this long list of other kinds of expenditures. The next slide does show our top 5 general fund expenditures by object. So by object, we're meaning kind of buckets of, what kinds of expenditures are areas where we're spending those funds. So salaries, of course, being salaries and benefits really being where most of these expenditures are occurring. And purchase services. And purchase services could also include human resources as well, meaning people. For example, we might contract with a service for speech and language therapy, for example, those kinds of things. But purchase services could also mean like repairing a water main breakage and things like that as well. So purchase services includes a large gamut of different things. And then supplies and materials. Now here, the total here, 39,840,059, and those top 5% do come close to the total expenditures of 40,308,850. So that really does give you a picture of where most of our expenditures occurred. Let's go on to the next slide. Just another highlight for us as a district, something we're really proud of, are the different enrichment programs that we have, and I'm going to talk about ASB next, so let's go to the next slide. And our ASB beginning fund balance, we started last fiscal year at $418,808. We had $335,814 in revenues collected. Our expenditures amounted to $298,529, and we ended the year at $456,093 in the fund balance. That was an increase of $37,285. The next fund is our debt service fund. This is the fund that we use for paying our bond, and we do transfer funds into this to pay our non-voted debt as well. So our beginning fund balance was $1,806,162. We had $2,999,689 in revenues, and our expenditures were $3,005,805. We ended with a fund balance of $1,800,046. Let's go to the next slide, please. Since we were talking about bonds, I wanted to just showcase our beautiful high school building. I just love that picture of the building. And then capital projects too, also related to buildings. Our beginning fund balance in our capital projects fund was $401,504. We collected $87,544 in revenues. We expended $193,762, and our ending fund balance was $295,286. Next, we have our transportation fund, and there's some of our transportation staff and some of our beautiful buses. With our transportation vehicle fund, we began last year with $504,813. We collected $314,782 in revenues, and that's a transportation depreciation fund we received from the state. Our expenditures were $487,607. We bought 4 brand new school buses, large buses, last school year. We ended the year with $331,988 in our fund balance. And I just wanted to end with this beautiful photo of our graduates last year going down to the stadium or going to grad walk. I think it was grad walk. Because again, this is what it's all about. And why we're here, our why, it's our purpose. To see our students ready for college and other adventures beyond high school.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dan. Are there
You're
any
welcome.
questions for him?
No. Good job.
Comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, we are at the time of our night to elect the board president. So I'm going to open the floor now and call for any nominations for the office of board president to serve for a one-year term.
I will nominate Leanna to be the next president.
All right, is there a second? I will second that. Are there any other nominations? All
Yeah,
right.
to make it a race, I'd like to nominate Eric.
Amen.
Uh-oh, here we go.
I would do it too, but then that would be weird, right?
Is there a second for Eric? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna close the nominations and I will do a roll call vote. I'll start over here with Eric.
I vote for Leanna.
I vote for Leanna Kratzer.
Do I vote for myself?
Yeah, we need 3
vote
votes.
for Leanna Kratzer.
I gotta vote for Eric.
Okay, I absolutely understand.
All right, Leanna Kratzer has been elected board president for the year. She'll pass this on to you.
Thank you very much.
And, yeah,
And we're on to the election of the vice president, and I'm completely off here. And do I hear any nominations for the vice president?
I will I nominate Eric Youngberg.
Second.
That was quick.
For what it's
Okay.
worth.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, not hearing any. I'm going to go for a roll vote, and I'm starting at this end here. And
Yeah, I vote for Eric, yeah.
I vote for Eric as well.
Eric Youngberg.
Vote for myself, I guess.
Friends, I gotta stand up, I've been sitting
I
too
know.
long.
You know, I had to too, so I have hypoglycemia, so it keeps going that way when we're doing that. Okay.
I think we do a student board member vote.
Oh, I did not. Did we even get a, did you vote for, did you vote for me?
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, Eric, you were seconded by a lame duck.
Are you comfortable with the change here? Okay. Very good. Okay, I appreciate it. All right. And then we are, hold on, now I've just lost my place because I
Board
was there.
letters.
Board letters.
Right above 5. There we go.
Oh, yeah, and the board letter columnist, and I know that this is one that I have fallen short of for the past few years, even in my 7 or 8 years here. My time is coming back, and I would like for the one that I finally hopefully get it in this month, but I'd like to write what it means, or what it means to be a board member. Because I think that just watching kind of we didn't have somebody on the ballot, you know, for one spot, you know, so it was kind of like, I think it might, not that, I don't even know if anybody reads them, but I would hope that would, and coming back to having time and all that. So yes, that's me. Next, for this month, and then Arla is for January, and Eric, February.
I think I'll write about the night school.
That would be awesome.
All right, and we are down to our monitoring reports. And I'm not going to read the big thing here, but we are on to the ER5 budget execution. And this is an action one here. So, hold on, getting there. Okay. I think that I entertain a motion to approve the finding the superintendent's performance to comply with ER5.
I'll make a motion that we find the superintendent's performance to comply with ER5 budget execution.
Okay, and is there any discussion on that?
I just would comment that with the awesome presentation that we saw tonight for the end of year and the awesome presentation that Dan does, I would definitely find the superintendent in compliance.
Yeah.
You're here.
Very much so. I concur. Anything else? Not hearing any, and
everybody for that, say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed? Not hearing any. We will move on. That passes, and we move on to ER 8, communication and counsel to the board. And I will entertain a motion to find the superintendent's performance to comply with ER 8.
I'll make a motion that to find the superintendent in compliance with ER 8.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm trying to check and see. I don't think I have one on this one.
I'd say superior job. Think of the testimony we got from our candidates this evening, you know?
Yeah. Amen. All right, and all for that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Not hearing any, that passes. And we are at E6, educational equity. And I'll entertain a motion to find the superintendent to comply with E6, educational equity.
I make a motion that we find the superintendent's performance to comply with E6.
All right, any discussion?
Yeah, on the report, on the last page, the teaching and learning, it says led by Assistant Superintendent Lisa Roberts, who's no longer here.
Good catch.
So I think we just need to change that one.
We'll make an adjustment there.
Yep. She doesn't want to have her assigned to jobs that she doesn't do anymore.
Thank you for catching that. We haven't
no,
had our
really.
equity committee reconvene yet this year, so that's
okay.
a good catch.
Okay, any other discussion?
Is it something that we should move this to later in the year in general? Like for next year?
When we first decided to do our own equity policy, we first did a report 3 times a year
remember
because
that.
we had, but we do a report once a year on all of our other, and I think we've gotten that running started that we wanted to get going on doing some important policy work around equity in the district. So that I would recommend that next month when we vote to do something with this, that we change the policy calendar to have the equity report happen every August alone.
And is that
For the
enough?
previous year.
For the previous year, okay. Yeah, because I thought that too. It's like there's not enough, your committee hasn't met yet.
So we're leaving it there as is? No.
Well, we had it in the calendar now, but then next month when we vote, are we changing anything?
Right,
We'll just
that's right.
vote, I'll ask that you
When it
vote to change
revisits.
it to.
Okay,
A different month.
okay, so no
August
amendment
only.
here, but next
No,
month we'll change
except for
that.
the change with Lisa Roberts' name.
Yeah, and we'll fix the report too.
Okay, so any other discussion on that? All right, and all for that one there, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Not hearing any, and I don't think I've said aye at either of these, so aye for all of these as well. And on to the policy review of ER 10. Did we have anything to discuss there?
I did not.
I don't.
Okay. And then the board meeting date change is what we're on to next in the adjournment phase. And what have we, let's see, due to scheduling conflicts, the board will discuss changing the date of the regular monthly board meetings again. The board will vote on an agreed upon date.
Yeah, and I think it's like last month, we voted to change it to a different Thursday, but we heard from our oncoming board member that Thursdays in general, no dice for her.
Okay.
So,
So I
And
think
then
we were
we were talking
talking
about-
the fourth Monday
Fourth
of the month?
Monday, and does that jive with our new board member?
We can make that work.
The fourth Monday, okay. So I think the fourth.
right, if that works
Monday?
for you.
Yeah, I think I'm
Yep.
fourth Monday at 6:30 p.m.
Does that work for
same.
you? Okay.
And you're good to go? Well, it looks like we are changing that, and I
Vote.
write that down just so I
Take a vote.
change
Take a
all
vote.
of my calendars now.
Right.
vote.
Oh, hold on. Fourth Monday. If I don't do it now, it may never.
And an advisory vote, student advisory.
Oh, man, I keep forgetting about you. I was gonna say like really good things about you at the end here, but. Okay. All right, well, all for the date change to the fourth Monday of the month.
I think I'll make a motion
Oh.
that we change our regular board meeting agenda to the fourth Monday of the month at 6:30 here in the boardroom.
Okay, I got really excited because we're changing it, so I love that. So, all right, well then I am going to, all for changing it to the fourth Monday of the month, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
How about you?
Aye.
All right, cool. All opposed?
Nay.
All right, not hearing any, we'll move on. No. Thank you. Would you like to discuss that? Okay, no. Thank you. And by not hearing any serious battles about that, we will accept that. And then good of the order, board and superintendent. And should we start with, do we normally start with him or we start there? Okay. We're starting with Deanna.
Oh, I just
Yeah,
lost one.
John, can you join me up front?
Yay, I'm sad.
I know.
Okay, I have to say, this presentation is one that gives me the most stress because I'm trying to speak publicly in front and about the expert on public speaking and trying to do it without getting emotional. And that's going to be hard. I have been so fortunate to work with John as one of my board members, as my sometime board president, as one of the board members who brought me to the district and gave me the opportunity to work here with our staff and our students and our community, and have the experience that has been so wonderful and has allowed me to help our community change and our schools change and grow. And so, John, it's really hard to see you retire. And I'm going to do this speech without showing too much emotion in my voice, but it is so hard to see you retire, but we are so excited for you. I can't wait to see that your book gets finished and published. And to hear more stories about your ventures on the water on the Hood Canal. So in a small token of our appreciation, we want to present you with this plaque honoring your service to the students and the schools and the staff.
Hey, I want another picture.
I'm getting it from behind.
I just want to say, I appreciate this honor. I appreciate it for me. I do not think of my own service on this board without thinking of my colleague Art Whiteman and Laura Bode, who could not be here this evening. For all these 16 years, we have been a team, not that we consult with one another outside of meetings, but that we basically share the same values and have fought the same fights for this district. And I was particularly pleased this evening, as a tribute equal to this one, when two of our candidates mentioned things that I think the three of us have worked for a long time. One was the building, and what was the other one? The other one was the tribute to the information that's going out, the communication with the schools, and the survey form or whatever it was that you mentioned, Nick. So these tributes that things are going well. I said to a habitual critic of this district recently, in answer to his questions, in a brief answer I gave, watch the tapes for the last 3 meetings. And I would add this one to that 4. There's a little line from Edmund Burke's speech on conciliation with America where he says about the growth of the colonies, pick any number while you're debating the number they've grown to it. Pick any achievement while you're talking about the achievement she's grown to it. And I think that's true of the entire staff. So it's a great honor to receive this honor. It has been a greater honor to serve with you all, particularly with Dana and my 3 colleagues, Art and Laura. Well, Two colleagues, all right. Love it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.
I know, that's kind of difficult.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, my family has been out here since the 30s, on and off. When my parents moved back here, that is when Laura and John and Art were all running for the first time. And it has, coming to the board has just been a pleasure, serving with you, John, and with Laura. I guess next meeting, when Laura's here, there'll be some emotional stuff coming out. But I really appreciate everything that you guys have shown over the years of what it means to be a school board member and to show how that should be accomplished. So thank you very much for that. So.
I much appreciate it.
I know, I will echo a lot of that. You think about the North Mason School Board, and for a long time, I mean, it is John Campbell and Laura Bode and Art Whiteman. And so I want to thank you for just your encouragement over the years and your warm welcome as I came on the board. And, I want to acknowledge the struggle you guys had on getting in board and where the district was at that moment in time compared to now. And I do think, time moves quickly and people forget and they move on and they have new complaints, right? But it is worthwhile to stop and remember, every now and again. And I think that you guys did an amazing job in shifting the culture here at the district between the board and the staff and the board and the administration. So thank you for your work.
And I'm going to thank you. When I was appointed, one of the things that you based, or I remember that you basing it on, was being artistic. And I loved that, and it was special to me. And I want to thank you three. You're the trifecta of many pivotal moments, not just a culture, but many changes in the culture here, because our kids are constantly moving and changing, and all the people coming on this board and leaving the board and running through this school, and all the different hairstyles and the just watching all that happen here. And you have not only put up with it, but you've done it with grace and with the colorful words that have painted a picture for us to think about. Because I always had to kind of go, wait a minute, what did that mean? And I have to think about when you would send me your sermons sometimes, and I would go, God, I got to read that again, because you go through it and I go, it's like word salad at first. I got a little bit of, I have to really focus, and you really made me focus, not just on your sermons, but here. So thank you very much.
I've said I'm speechless.
You've said all the things.
All the things. Okay.
Thank you so very much.
Yes. Thank you, John.
On behalf of all three of us.
Right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
And then we are still at the good of the order with board and superintendent, and I'm going to come back over here because he's been a little bit quiet tonight, and see what you got for the good of the order tonight.
I don't know.
Anything to share with us at all?
Anything extra? Yeah.
It's been a long night.
Yeah.
It has been.
Nothing comes to mind.
Yeah, mine is numb from the bottom up. Yeah. Would you like to share anything with us tonight?
Well, I'm very, just kind of repeat what I said, is I'm very proud of this outfit. There's a level of professionalism here that is incredible. And part of why I ran was to make North Mason Public Schools safe for professionals. And that doesn't mean not the people, not the kids, the rest of the thing, but there were people that were quitting, and there were people that were ashamed to be here. And I'm an educator too, and so I'm just very pleased and sort of amazed that we're sitting here this evening and we've seen what we've seen. If I were in another setting, I would say something like, thank you, but I won't say that because we're not there.
Okay. I'm gonna, real quickly, our conference that we went to in November, it feels like it was longer. Things happen nowadays that are just, it just stretches out, and I have a kid, 13 years old, so that is on top of school and work and I own a shop, and that just, all kinds of things that come for that, but getting to know you guys, and the parents that came along, and I think I've connected like with Morgan, and before it was Spencer, and and then both of you guys coming, it was just, I love that opportunity. That's my favorite part. And we didn't get to do that before Spencer, I believe. We didn't have them before. So
Well, we had them, they didn't go to the conference.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah, they didn't get to go with us. So I think that's really important. And then we always learn some really cool things there. But mostly just how to connect more every time. I think it just, each time that they change it, it kind of ties a loop in your tennis shoe, like pulls another thing up. So I'm not done tying my tennis shoe yet. So I will look forward to many more of those. But that was
I don't really have anything else. I just would say that, coming up in January, legislative session is going to be gearing back up, and I think that we'll be adding those updates back to the agenda. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
You're done? Yeah. And
I will just add, the governor's budget proposal was published yesterday. And Arla, if you want to look, Reichdahl did a really good job summarizing on OSPI's website the impacts for education. We actually see more included in the governor's budget to support education than we did last year, and this is a supplemental year, so that's a good thing. The disappointment and the sometimes disgust that people in schools felt with the approach to funding school issues last year has obviously been noted. There's still a lot to fight the fight for, but it turned out a little better, at least in that initial proposal, than many of us were expecting.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
It has been a very good meeting tonight. It's very long, but the board's self-assessment tonight is going to be by Mr. Youngberg, and if you would like to do
Sure. So our board self-assessment tonight for our general meeting behavior, the agenda was planned. The board followed its agenda. Board members were all prepared. We didn't have any interruptions. Our deliberations and decision makings across our public, well balanced. Nobody dominated the conversations. Everybody listened attentively. I marked us all satisfactory in that category. And the governance principles, I marked us satisfactory in all of those, and overall a satisfactory meeting.
Amen, and thank you for the swift run through there. Our next board meeting date will be won't be 6:30.
It'll be 22nd at 6:30.
Yeah.
22nd of January, and now I really have to write it down because I won't remember. At 6:30 p.m. right here in this boardroom, and that is it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Are adjourned.
Free at last. Free at last. Out of my hand. Free at last.